Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I want to say welcome. Thank you all for being here. Let's start with introductions. We'll start to my right with our clerks.
Good afternoon. I am Christine Smith, clerk to the board.
Good afternoon. I am Arlissa Easton, Deputy Clerk to the Board.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan Rodriguez McDowell, and I have the honor of being elected by the people of District 6.
Good afternoon. I'm Laura Meyer, and I represent District 5.
Good afternoon. I'm George Dunlap, elected by the people of District 3.
Good afternoon. My name is Lee Altman, Mecklenburg County Commissioner serving at large, and I also have the privilege of serving as Vice Chair.
Good afternoon again, everyone. My name is Mark Jarrell. I've been elected by the people of District 4 and also have the honor of serving as Chairman of the Board.
Good afternoon. The name is Vilma D. Leake, and I represent the most powerful district in the county. And that happens to be District 2. Welcome, and especially to the Chief of Police.
Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Arthur Griffin. I have the pleasure of serving as County Commissioner at large.
Good afternoon. I feel very safe. I represent District 1, which is North Mecklenburg, Huntersville, Davidson, Cornelius, and North Charlotte. My name is Elaine Powell.
Good afternoon. My name is Yvette Townsend Ingram. I too feel safe. Also known as Commissioner YTI. Welcome and thank you all.
Good afternoon, Tyrone Wade, County Attorney.
Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Mike Bryant, Mecklenburg County Manager.
Then we'll hear from the executive team right before we do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good afternoon. Leslie Johnson, Deputy County Manager.
Good afternoon. Deputy County Manager Michelle Attreed.
Good afternoon. Derek Ramos, Deputy County Manager and Chief of Staff.
Is that it? All right. If you'll join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you again, everyone. The way this board starts our meetings, we level set with our mission, our vision, and our board priorities. Our mission is to serve Mecklenburg County residents by helping improve their lives and community. Vision is Mecklenburg County will be a community of pride and choice for people to live, learn, work, and recreate. Our FY26 and 27 board budget priorities are economic development, education, environmental stewardship, health equity and wellness, services for seniors, workforce development, and reducing racial disparities. And we'd like to start with this for anyone who's watching so that you understand what guides our decisions, what guides our questions, and guides our interaction here today. And with that, we are honored to have so much law enforcement. I love it. But we really are honored to have each and every one of you. Looking forward to hearing from you. We appreciate your work and your service. And at this time, I will turn it over to the county manager to tee us up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today you have 2 items on your agenda for this afternoon, and I, too, agree that it is an honor to have our law enforcement service partners with us from the city of Charlotte, as well as the towns in this county as well. The first item, you will be receiving an update on the Law Enforcement Service District tax and the results and the services provided in our ETJs. As you may be aware, the law enforcement for the unincorporated areas of Mecklenburg County, ETJ, is provided through 3 interlocal agreements with the city of Charlotte, the town of Cornelius, the town of Huntersville, and the town of Pineville. The interlocal stipulates that the chief of police from the respective service areas present updates regarding the police services that are being provided in each ETJ to the Board of County Commissions. So you should be very familiar with this report. Those of you that have served on this commission for some time, you know this is a requirement associated with that interlocal agreement. And with that, Mr. Chair, I believe our CMPD Chief Patterson is going to kick it off, and then she'll invite her colleagues from the towns to follow suit as well. So please recognize and welcome Chief Patterson.
Fantastic. Chief Patterson, you are recognized and welcome. Just go straight to the podium. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Estella Patterson, and it is my honor to serve as your Chief of Police for Charlotte and for Mecklenburg County. Joining me today is one of my deputy chiefs, Jackie Briley. She's over our patrol services. She and I will give you an overview. I will begin with just talking about some of my priorities and some of the things that I have set forth as the new Chief of Police, and then she will dive into the ETJ report for you. I believe that you do have a copy of it, and we will also advance the slides so you can follow along with us. Let's see. Okay, very good. So first and foremost, as you are aware, I was appointed as chief in December 1st of 2025. Immediately in coming into the seat, I identified 3 areas as my priorities as the CMPD chief. My vision is to serve this community and to ensure that Charlotte is the safest large city in the nation. In order to accomplish that, we have set 3 goals or 3 areas of focus. Namely, they are firstly to reduce violent crime and disorder and to continue reducing violent crime, and I'll talk a little bit about the stats in just a second. But also to enhance our community engagement and our collaboration. We know as a police department we cannot operate in silo. We really have to work very closely with our community. And then thirdly, but most importantly, is really focusing inwardly at our police department. I think you all know that law enforcement, we're going through some struggles right now with just staffing numbers, and trying to increase that number really affects the morale of the organization. So we're working diligently to do that. With respect to 2025, looking back at the numbers, from January 1st to December 31st of 2025, we saw where our interactions with the public increased. And certainly that has a lot to do with the fact that this city, this county is growing tremendously. So as you can see here, our interactions went up by 5% 2025 versus 2024. And those interactions include everything from traffic stops, just our officers getting out, speaking with a member of our community, as well as doing zone checks in various areas. When we look at our 2025 crime numbers, I am pleased to report that we saw reductions in 3 areas: our overall crime, our property crime, and our violent crime. I will tell you, I've been doing this work for 30 years. To see reductions in all 3 areas like this is rare. And it's very difficult to sustain. So I'm going to put that disclaimer out in the beginning here. But we saw, again, the focus for me is reducing violent crime. We saw where our violent crime was down 21% last year over 2024, property crime down 6%, and then just overall 9%. When we look at it year to date, we're trending in the right direction year to date. We're down 9%, over 17% overall, 9% in violent crime, and 16% in property crime. So we are definitely moving in the right direction. Some of our efforts that have helped to reduce our crime across the board, it's just the great work that our men and women are doing every single day. I'm so proud to be back in Charlotte in this uniform because I know this police department and I know what we're capable of. One of our units, which Deputy Chief Briley is over, is our crime reduction units. We have 4 of them spread across the city and county, and they do a tremendous job of just looking to see what's going on in the community and then focusing on that. You can see that from January to December, they made over 2,300 traffic stops. They made 781 arrests. They seized firearms off our streets, which is really important, and they got a lot of narcotics off of our streets as well. You may recall when I came into the seat in December, I really wanted to focus in Charlotte, particularly in our downtown area, our uptown area. I got to remember to say uptown. It's a difference from Raleigh. But in our uptown area, we were seeing some upticks in violent crime. So I told the team, I said, let's focus on the epicenter of this great city to try to reduce that. So we kicked off Operation Safe Season, where it was a collaborative effort with Highway Patrol, North Carolina ALE, MECABC, our Sheriff's Office. We all pulled our resources together to really focus in our Center City area. But after doing that, of course, I got in trouble because people were saying that is not the only part of Charlotte, Mecklenburg that you should focus on. We should see you in other areas. So we did do the same kind of operations in other parts of our city. We went to North Charlotte. We went to South Charlotte around the Steel Creek area towards the county. And also, too, we'll be doing another operation this week, I believe, this weekend as well. So every single month, we have made the commitment of doing what's called Queen City Safe, where we're doing operations in various parts of the city and county to make sure that we are really concentrating on the areas that we believe are important to our community and where we're seeing crime. But our crime reduction unit, there are, as stated, there are 4 of them across the county, and they just work at areas that it's problematic for us, where we're getting complaints from our residents, and we've seen a lot of good work and effort from what they have been doing. One other area that has allowed us and helped us to be able to focus on crime is the implementation of our civilian crash investigators. This was an effort when I was in Raleigh that I really pushed for, went to the General Assembly and spoke with our legislatures. We were able to pass, or they were able to pass, House Bill 140, which enacted and enabled us to have civilian crash investigators, and not just in Charlotte, not just in our larger cities or counties, but across North Carolina. So it was a win for the entire state. So these civilian crash investigators enable our officers, it kind of frees them up a little bit to handle more extensive calls while they handle minor crashes. I think you all, or maybe some people here can relate to, you call in a minor fender bender, it might take an hour and a half for an officer to come. With having these civilian crash investigators, that really minimize the time, and you can see that their calls for service from January 1 to December 31st, just the overall call for service was 8,500, and their minor crash was 6,639. Year to date, they're answering just as much, if nearly. We're probably going to end the year with even more. They have responded to 2,986 calls just this year alone, and they have taken 2,030 rec reports. The work that they're doing is really really important for our community because, again, we want to make sure that we're utilizing our officers in the best way that we can, that they can handle the more serious things and not being caught up on rec reports throughout the day. So we're very grateful for them. So this is just a quick overview of, again, my priorities as the chief, the things that we want to accomplish, and just giving you some numbers, our crime stats for 2025. I know that this briefing is more to talk about ETJ, so I'm going to ask Deputy Chief Briley if she will step forward and provide that information for you.
Thank you, Chief. As stated, I'm Deputy Chief Jackie Briley. I'm over all of our patrol operations and the airport for CMPD. And so I'll go into our ETJ numbers, and I'll just kind of give like high-level overview. So, do I do it? Oh, okay. All right. So for our ETJ in 2025, our ETJ areas generated more than 15,000 calls for service, with Charlotte accounting for 93% of that activity, over 14,000 calls. Let's see here. In Charlotte, our ETJ response performance was consistent with our average response times for our priority 3 calls for 20.8 minutes, and our priority 1 calls, which are high priority blue lights and sirens calls, 9.7 minutes. Hill did represent the second largest workload with over 1,000 calls, closely mirroring Charlotte's response times.
Can you go to the next slide?
Okay. There we go. All right. Davidson and McGuire saw extremely low activities with 16 and 12 calls respectively, with minimal operational coverage. Our ETJ crime compared in 2025, our overall ETJ crime consistent within Charlotte was down 8.5%. In Charlotte, our crime ETJ fell 7.1%, with violent crime down 22% and property crime down 5%. And we're still trending in those directions. As far as Chief said, that's something that's really astounding that we're very proud of. Mint Hill crime, like to highlight dramatically, 48% decrease overall. Davidson and McGuire had 0 violent and 0 property crime reported in 2024, to 2025. When it goes to our officer activities, these are when you see your officers out there patrolling the areas. In 2025, officers generated nearly 24,000 officer-initiated events across our ETJs, with Charlotte accounting for more than 17,000 of those. Our officer-initiated work in Charlotte was dominated by proactive activity with over 12,000 initiated events. Over 17,000 of those were suspicious or what we call zone checks. And 2,648 were traffic stops, and this resulted in more than 6,000 service hours. Across all of our ETJ, officer activities totaled over 8,000 service hours, with the vast majority of that workload concentrated in Charlotte and at McGuire. So our traffic-related activity in 2025, our traffic was our major workload driver with over 2,500 traffic calls across our ETJs, Charlotte accounting for 94% of those. The largest Charlotte call type were our property damage crashes. This is where a medic was not called to treat anybody for injury. So these were property damage calls for service with a little over 1,000. And then our personal injury crashes where medic is called, 690. This generated over 3,600 hours of service time. Our specialized units also spend time in our ETJ. Our specialized activity across all ETJs were relatively low, but Charlotte, again, counts for the majority of those deployments. In 2025, Charlotte ETJ, there were 45 aviation calls for service. That's when our helicopter lifts up and deploys to one of our ETJ locations. 96 K9 responses, and over 610 motorcycle deployments. This is where our motorcycle units and our motors units do operations to focus on some of our traffic areas and some of our high accident locations. Mint Hill did see a small number of specialized deployments across aviation and K9 and our motorcycles, while Davidson and Pikeville did have minimal activity. Some of our ongoing ETJ work will continue to ensure public safety. We always continue to share our resources with our towns, especially our helicopter and our K9 whenever needed. We work closely with our crime analysis unit. We are data-driven when we come to deploying our resources, and we continue to remain committed with our city manager with these continued efforts. And answer any questions.
We're happy to answer any questions you may have of us.
So what we'll do is, we've got multiple presentations, so we'll take questions after each one. Madam Clerk, I'm going to ask us to try to go with, we're going to try to go with 2 minutes. I understand that some of you all may need more than that if you've got a question or a comment, and I'll try to accommodate. But to those that can keep it at 2, let's do that so we can get to the other presenters as well. So who has questions or a comment? Commissioner Altman.
I actually don't have a comment. I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for your hard work and everybody who serves with such honor and distinction. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Commissioner Leek.
Let me first say thank you and welcome. It's a joy to see you and to have a relationship with you. And hopefully that in the future, the numbers will be even less. My concern is about the violence within the confines of the Black community. And it's young children breaking in cars or out 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. How and what can we do to get parents to be held accountable for their children after hours? We're supposed to have a curfew. I think it's 11 o'clock, I'm not sure, so help me with that. And number 2, are these people who have just moved to Mecklenburg County and they brought their habits with them to this county, and we are the recipients of their bad work. And the third thing is there are those who operate under the white-collar crime, and we never hear that much about it, have been arrested or either within the confines of their homes. How do we eradicate some of these problems? And I know if you knew the answer, you had already done it. But thank you so much, and thanks for affording me the opportunity. I say every day, the policemen's families look for them to come home in the afternoon. And I pray that you get there, because you give of your time and your energy to this community. So thank you. But yet we have people who complain about policemen, always on the street, always touching us, always picking us up. always pulling us to the curb. But if we didn't have you, what would we do? How would we make it? So I'll stop at that point. Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Commissioner Leek, thank you so much for your questions, and thank you for your support of law enforcement. I know you asked a couple of things. I'll start with the juveniles. And so we recognize fully that our young people don't have enough to do. Many are idle. Many are out at hours when they shouldn't be. You talked about the parents. I think we agree that parents have to do more to be able to know where their youth are, what their children are doing. So just yesterday, I had the conversation with one of my majors about youth programming, particularly this summer, because we know when they're out of school, they are more apt to get into trouble. So we have a number of programs across the city of Charlotte, which I'm sure the county does as well, to address it. Various camps. We're partnering with Johnson C. Smith to provide, to identify students that we know can be problematic and get into trouble, and we are funding that they be a part of that camp. We feel that the more we can expose them to positive things, the better it is overall. I don't have an answer for the parenting part. I've spoken to our DA, who is a great partner of ours. Is there a way to hold parents more accountable? Are there ways of charging parents for not knowing where their children are 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, kind of thing? And I think we're limited there. There has to be probably some laws that would have to be changed, instituted, to kind of address that more directly. But I agree with you that we have to hold parents more accountable in some way to do that. We can have as many programming as we can. We can touch as many youth as we can, but if they go back home to an environment that doesn't support what we're doing, then we're back to square one. So it is a challenge in our community. You talk about white-collar crime. So we have units dedicated to that. We have our fraud unit, but I think the biggest way to impact white-collar crime is working with our federal partners. The FBI, ATF, DEA, all those agencies have stiffer penalties depending on what it is. We have task force officers at CMPD that's assigned to each one of those federal agencies that we work very closely with. I will say this, that I'm very impressed and pleased with working with our U.S. Attorney, Russ Ferguson. He is really relentless when it comes to finding charges. If there's federal charges on somebody that they can levy, they will do that. So I'm excited about that. He and I talk all the time, and when we can take cases federally, I think that's more of a benefit for us than just levying state charges.
Chief, before I go to Commissioner Griffin and go around the dais, the commissioners get 2 minutes. You're going to hear a bell. It's not for you all. It is just for us, okay? So if it happens in the middle of your response, please continue to go, and that's for all our presenters, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Griffin.
He would mention the bell when I got ready to ask questions. Is truancy still on the state statute is one question. I live in ETJ, and a lot of the areas have private roads. So on one of your slides, you have traffic stops. So what type of traffic stops are these on private roads? The other question deals with communications. There's been a problem in the past, before you got here, with officers having a challenge with handheld devices when they're out of their vehicles and in pursuit or out of their vehicles. Their mobile devices had difficulty in certain areas in ETJs. I don't know if you've heard that, but I mean, you're new here, not new here, but you new in this role. So the 3 questions: one is the handheld mobile communications. Tell me a little bit about the traffic stops on, because a lot of these roads on the map that you showed are private roads. And what was the third one?
State statute on truancy.
Oh, state statute on truancy. That's why we have a wonderful clerk.
Indeed, she is.
Keep me legal over there, will you?
So,
and
Mr.
I had another
Oh,
question.
yes, sir.
On planning. Since the Charlotte City Council does a lot of the planning for the ETJs in terms of developments, they're outside of the city limits, although we don't have any real authority in that area. Are you seeing any challenges or needs as it relates to the developments? The southwest part of Mecklenburg County and western part of Mecklenburg County is experiencing tremendous growth and development. So the question is, do you see any challenges or opportunities for us to improve those services in those areas? I think that's 4 questions, right?
Yes,
All right,
sir.
bell didn't ring. All right, I'm doing pretty good.
Oh, there it is.
All right, okay, Christine.
So, Mr. Commissioner, let's start with your first question concerning truancy. I believe we're still on the books. I have our team over here that's researching that for us and can get an answer to us so that we can have one for you. As Deputy Chief Broadleaf, she will address some of these other questions that you had.
All right.
All right, so I'll start with the mobile devices and the handheld radios. That was something that we started experiencing specifically in our Still Creek area, where it goes in second hand with your last part of your question about growth and development. And so one of the things we worked on with our CTS unit and our radio partners was another tower, if you're familiar with the Red Fez Club. And so we worked out something, and that was one of the biggest issues. I particularly myself actually rode out there with my handheld just to see what officers were talking about. And there were actual points in brand new developments and brand new neighborhoods where my handheld radio would start flashing out of range. And it became an officer safety issue, obviously, because we were having officers responding to domestics in some of these neighborhoods and had no radio communication. So that was something that we worked on with our city partners and some of our private partners with the putting another tower out in the Still Creek area to service some of those areas with at the Red Fez Club. As far as the traffic stops on some of the private roads, I don't have the details on actual private roads, but I do know that we do respond to multitude of complaints for traffic. That's usually where we start generating some of our proactive work. It's because we do get complaints from residents and citizens about speeding, stop signs, passing school buses, things like that. And so what we try to do is we try to target the areas where we get the most complaints generated, and then we start to go to our regular traffic patrols. But we do prioritize the complaints that we get from residents from the different areas out in the ETJ. Was there another question?
I think you got it, the streets and then the planning. He asked about planning, so I can address that.
Okay.
And so, Mr. Commissioner, I can go back to let you know that, yes, the truancy law is still on the books, and which requires that children ages 7 through 16 must attend school. So that is still on the books. You talked about planning. Respectfully, I will ask, is there a way to put a moratorium on development? I think that would help us quite a bit. I think the challenges we're seeing is, again, so much growth. It is hard for us as a police department to kind of keep up with that. I think it makes it difficult for us to get around when there's construction, when roads are closed, or there's just delay in responses as a result of that. And certainly, I don't know that anything can be done about that. I think that's just the growing pains of when there's new development in an area.
My 2 minutes up, so I can't say anything.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you. I first want to thank all law enforcement for the work that you do. There's never a time where I see you where I don't think that. Thank you for your work. I represent Huntersville, Davidson, Cornelius, and North Charlotte, and I live in ETJ. And so I have North Division and Freedom Division in my district. And you know, I'm thankful for all the good work, but I love what you said about the moratorium, because a lot of this development seems very short-sighted and explosive and putting a burden upon all the infrastructure. And so I wonder if, I'm just going to talk until the dinger goes. I wonder if you have a legislative agenda, because, you know, there are big concerns about the growth. In my district, you know, it was unheard of to have a meetup. And I know it was on the news about the meetup at the Harris Teeter on Mount Holly, Huntersville. And so while like these numbers look good, my district is concerned about staffing. Like, you know, does CMPD have enough staff? Does the 911 call center have enough staff? How can we help? I need to understand the prioritization better. I get some calls where people didn't get responded to in a time. Actually, I get calls about 911 didn't answer and they got put on hold. And then I get calls about they weren't a priority. And they felt like if they were calling and I know you get calls that are random, but the people that called were like, how do they prioritize? And I said, well, we're having a meeting soon. I'm not sure. But in ETJ, like Commissioner Griffin was talking about, we get all kinds of crazy in ETJ because people know that they're in ETJ, especially these 18-wheel trucks. And so they're causing all kinds of problems in neighborhoods, in addition to these daily rental things, pools and stuff. Okay, that's it.
But not anymore.
I have more, though.
I'll come back to you,
Okay.
just if we could just,
Okay.
because we've got more presentations.
Okay.
That's the only reason, but I'll defer some.
I got it.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer,
Yeah, Chief,
to address some of her questions that she had. The first thing you asked was, do I have a legislative agenda? No, I do not at this time. Coming into this seat, I said I want to come in, listen, and learn to see what we're facing in the city and in the county, and then from there, work with our partners to see how we can resolve some of it. So no legislative agenda at this time. You talked about the shortages of officers. Yes, we're facing a huge shortage of police officers, which I'm sure the other agencies are as well. I've already communicated publicly that I think what can help, what would really be changing to enable us to get more officers is we have to make sure that we're the largest county and that we are providing the most competitive pay to be able to keep people and to bring them on. We need it from a recruitment perspective, but also a retention perspective. I've already asked for a across-the-board pay raise for our officers as well as take-home cars, and I asked that of the General Assembly to help fund that. Also, too, when we look at just what we're dealing with, I know that the Sheriff's Office, the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office, is dealing with the same kind of challenges and issues. So I think we're all in the same boat with that. But if we tout that this is such a wonderful place where 100 and something people are moving here a day, we should match that with how we compensate our employees, both as police officers and in our 911 center.
And I can speak briefly on to the calls for service, and I can definitely get a follow-up, some more detailed, more granular with our 911 calls response and our times and the priority. We start off with our priority 5 calls for service, which are routine, something that may be in a parking lot or something that require like a pickup of property. Then we go to our priority 3, which is your normal 911 call for service, where it may be, I'm calling 911 because I see someone getting into a disturbance, at a 7-Eleven. And then our priority 1 is our highest priority call. That's you see someone running blue lights and sirens. That could be medic related, accident related, or that could be someone usually tied to a violent crime where there's gun violence involved or there's some type of weapon involved, and those are our highest priority calls for service. And those are the ones that if there's a priority 3 or 5 in the queue and a priority 1 call comes out, then that's going to get pushed down, and officers are going to get diverted to that priority 1 call for service. And let's just say they get there and they're able to sort things out, then that priority 3 and 1 and 5 are going to get rerouted back into the queue, and those people that service is going to go there. It's not the best, practical model, but like the chief said, we are a busy city, and if someone calls 911 and says someone has been shot, we're going to go to the call where someone has been shot versus the call where there's an accident in the Harris Teeter parking lot. And we're not saying that that's not as important. Everybody knows dealing with accidents and insurance companies can be a pain as well, but it's just going to get rerouted, and somebody will get to that call for service. This is why Chief spoke on our CCIs, or our civilian crash investigators, because they have been a huge help to take some of that burden off, so that way someone can come provide those services to the people in that parking lot for traffic, so officers can still respond to those other calls for service. But I can also definitely get you some information, more granular, offline.
And if I could just say finally concerning this is, Commissioner, you indicated that you've been getting complaints that people are not receiving a response. We need to know about that 100%. If you call 911, somebody should pick up, somebody will pick up. So please make sure your assistant can forward that information to us so that we can address it.
Commissioner Townsend Ingram.
First, I just want to say that it gives me goosebumps just to see 2 African-American women standing up there leading. So thank you so much for what you do and for serving us in such a grand way. And to everybody here that is serving us. I'm just learning what an ETJ is and why we have ETJs. I'm still learning. And as an at-large commissioner, I think it's my job to kind of like serve as backup to the district county commissioners. So my question is kind of along the lines of what Commissioner Leek was asking about with the juveniles and the data. Is there a way to slice and dice the data that you've given us? Is there a dashboard? I know sometimes our dashboards are, lag a little bit, but I want to know where can we assist and serve with the youth violence, because that's one of my priorities, of course, is youth and mental health and that kind of thing. So wanting to know what areas we could focus in, that's one of my questions. And I don't expect you all to have the data right here, but I want to know, is there a way, can we get that data by district or maybe school district, even if it's by school, because, you know, school districts and county commission districts, I think, overlap the best.
Yes, ma'am.
So if we can get that data.
Absolutely, we can 100% get that data to you, and we can break it down by types of crimes, general age. Obviously, you know, it's just going to be generic information. But we can break it down by race and gender as well. Violent crime, property crime. We can overlay it with schools as well. So our crime analysis unit, they do an exceptional job, and so anytime we get those requests from anybody, we do provide that information.
Thank you so much. And the other thing, Governor Josh Stein came here recently to Charlotte and spoke about, he has the same agenda of paying our officers. So ride that coattail as much as possible, and whatever we can do to help you ride that coattail, we will do.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rodriguez-McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you just say a little bit more about the state funding that you are requesting? Like, because I don't really have a good idea of how much of your funding comes from state versus city. And so if you could just help me just kind of know sort of what your percent maybe of each is. And then I also was wondering if you could give an example of the, I was noticing in your specialized units, like motorcycle and ETJ, like what sort of incidences, you know, can you just give us an idea of what that is for? Like, when do motorcycles respond versus when cars respond? And also was wondering about CIT training. Is that across, you know, the ETJ areas as well?
Yes, ma'am. So your first question was related to the budget and the percentages. Unfortunately, I don't have those numbers for you, but I can work with our team to try to get them and get them back to you. And DC, do you want to address the others?
So as far as our motors and our motorcycle units, it's not necessarily a response to that. So that unit works specifically in our high crash locations. And so daily, they go around the city and the county, and they do specific targeted speed operations where they saturate an area. And I don't have the numbers in front, but they produce large numbers for us. And so when you see those officers on the motorcycles, they are high probability doing some type of proactive speed operation as opposed to responding to a call for service.
Okay.
And then your second question.
It's about CIT training.
And so for our CIT, so our officers, after 2 years of service, receive a 40-hour CIT class, and then they follow up with a refresher class after their 2 years. So every single officer, regardless of where they serve, receives the CIT training. And I think our numbers are somewhere in the 1,200 range of,
like 700.
Or 700 CIT certified officers. We actually have a class going next week where we're going to send 30 more officers through CIT 40-hour and 15 more officers through our refresher course.
It would just be great to know what percentage of officers does that mean have been through the training?
Out of the 7?
Yeah, less than 50% of our officers. But let me give some context to that as well. First of all, when the DC talks about 2 years on, that's a CIT international recommendation. Every police department, every agency doesn't have that same standard. When I was in Raleigh, we sent every single officer through CIT. That's not the recommendation of NAMI or CIT International. CMPD goes with the recommendation of them. So that's the first thing. And then also too with CIT, of course, that's baseline with how to deal with somebody in mental health crises. type of thing. Beyond that, we have what's called our CPCRT teams, which is our Community Police and Crisis Response Team. That's a co-response model where we have an officer paired with a clinician, a social worker, and they respond together when there is a call for service, or they follow up when officers go out. Maybe a CIT officer handles that initial call, and then CPCRT might be called to do the follow-up work to make sure that person does not continue to be in the criminal justice system is really our goal with CPCRT. So those are resources that CMPD has that I think is just wonderful to be able to help those who might be in crisis or needing additional help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dunlap.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think anybody who's been following law enforcement realizes that since COVID, the law enforcement sector is the last sector to recover. And so we understand why there's such a large vacancy. I think I heard earlier today, Deputy Chief, that there were 90 in recruit school and you had about 270 vacancies, which is substantial. I'd like to know just what the improvement has been over the years, because I know when Chief Putney was here, they had vacancies as well. So I want to know where you've come in terms of filling those vacancies. And then, secondly, what can this community do to assist with the recruitment effort? I heard you say earlier you wanted to provide additional incentives or pay increases to officers, but you know, maybe there could be some targeted initiative where an officer who recruits another officer would be provided a particular incentive. That might be an incentive for somebody to recruit somebody. I know that we like people who grow up in the area, who are familiar with the area, who understand the culture. But then, of course, we have to also be willing to accept those people who come into our community as well. So basically, last thing I want to say to all of the law enforcement officers, having spent 27 years doing it myself, I applaud the work that you do. I think with the shortage of staff, we are blessed to be in a community with crime rate being what it is. So thank you all for the work that you do.
Thank you. That was well said.
So Commissioner Dunlap, thank you so much for your service, and thank you for supporting what we're doing, especially talking about recruitment and retention. This is near and dear to my heart. You said when Putney was in the seat, I go back to when Monroe was in the seat because I was the captain over our recruitment efforts, and we were given the directive that you're going to fill these vacancies. So we worked really hard towards that. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said in 2020, we saw a decline. About 15% of our force started retiring and moving on. We're still in that cycle right now, and we're probably going to be in it for another year, year and a half, and I think it'll level out a little bit more after that. So there are a number of things we are doing in terms of recruitment and retention. You said something that I brought to this agency, the referral incentive for our employees. I tell my employees all the time, I says, who better than us know who we want to be our backup? We should be recruiting heavily and bringing people into the profession. So, but because of the generous donation of our police foundation, we're able to provide an incentive to our employees to recruit and bring people into the agency. So we're working through that. Also, too, we have a very robust recruitment effort because I told our recruiting team that we have to generate more classes and more people in those classes so that we can fill the gaps of these vacancies. So we have on our social media platforms, all of our platforms, we talk about recruitment. We have a captain that is dedicated to going to schools, mostly like our HBCUs, and talking about the things that disqualify you from being a police officer, because that is what we're finding. It's not that people aren't applying, it's just they're not qualified based on state standards and based on our standards of the kind of people we want in our organization. So that is a work that he's doing and helping us to be able to turn these numbers around. And one last thing I will say is that you said, what can you do? How can you help? Of course, any funding streams that can help us to raise pay is wonderful, but I think just word of mouth. If you know somebody that will make a good police officer, that can make it through the background, that's physically fit, that wants to serve their community, send them our way, encourage them into this line of work. I think word of mouth really goes a long way.
I can add to it.
Oh, yes, DC.
And just briefly to capitalize on what Chief Patterson said, 100% about the public support. As someone who's worked in recruitment off and on in various ranks in a career, the biggest thing that we struggled with after 2020, because I was in recruitment at the time, was making sure that we had public support for this job, that this is a noble profession. And that was one of the things I spent a lot of time talking to family members of recruits about, was taking this job and it not being villainized, because it's hard to get people to want to do a job that's been villainized. And so now, as the chief said, the tide is turning. And so now as the tide is turning, we're going to get more people want to do this job, and they see it as a career and not just a stepping stone to something else. And so that, along with the chief's priorities on retention. So once we get them here, treating them well, paying them well, they'll stay here, and we'll hopefully fill these vacancies.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to do a quick 30 seconds. I'm going to ask commissioners to self-monitor. I'm going to start with Commissioner Griffin and Commissioner Powell, then we're going to move to the next presentation. Commissioner Griffin.
Thank you, Chief, and all that are committed to keeping us safe. In my community, there's still confusion. About 2 years ago, there was an internal memo about traffic enforcement on private roads. It said you can't write tickets, you can't do stop sign violations, et cetera, but you can do DWI, DUI, and reckless driving. Can you find out if that's still in effect in terms of the ETJ, so we can share with our neighbors? And the other piece is truancy also leads to juvenile delinquency. Mm-hmm. And so if there's some way that we can figure out collaboratively, we need to work on it. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Question one, can citizens respond to the CCI? Can they respond to anything but crashes? Question number two, Freedom Division used to have a contact list with regular meetings for businesses in the area, small businesses who regularly deal with like theft, people breaking in and stealing things. I pulled up an email to see if I could find it. The last one that I got was in 2015, so I'm wondering if you're going to continue that or rebirth it. And I'll email the other one.
Yes, ma'am.
Transfer from another city.
You can answer.
Oh, okay. You asked about CCI. The statute is very specific on what they can do. They are not police officers, so they can only respond to those wreck calls, and they can direct traffic, and it's very limited to that. The other questions, we're taking notes on those so that we can get a response back to you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm not going to ask any questions. I'll email my questions for the sake of time, but thank you so much for the work and for the presentation today.
Thank you.
City.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chief Patterson and team. Next, you will hear from Chief Balcom, who is the Town of Cornelius Chief of Police.
Jesus Christ. No, nothing.
Right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners. David Balcom, Chief of Police for the Cornelius Police Department. Thank you for the opportunity to come down and present before you guys. We just absolutely love our partnership that we have with Mecklenburg County and all of our partner agencies as well. Okay, I may have to have a there we go. So we'll start with our where our ETJ actually is. We have a very small land ETJ. We do also contract with the county to provide lake patrol for all the waters in Mecklenburg County. So the presentation kind of covers both, so I'll try to make sure that I'm specific on what it is, but this is our land ETJ. It's shaded in green there, and like I say, it's not a very large area, and it's also still not very developed, which is a good thing because we know that future growth is coming. ETJ comparison on crime. Very fortunate overall in our town. We have very little violent crime. We had 0 violent crime in the ETJ in 24 and 25 as far as homicide, rape, robbery, and also aggravated assault. Property crimes, that's something that we deal with on a regular basis in the town of Cornelius. For whatever reason, people come up there and target that area for property crimes. The ETJ saw a slight increase from 7 to 9 in 2025. For larceny, burglary stayed the same. Beanie, motor vehicle stayed the same. Auto theft was 0, and then we had one less arson, which is always a good thing for the crime comparison. ETJ police activity. Special Operations Division deployment. So we are part of a regional SWAT team with the town of Huntersville and also the town of Davidson. We did not have any deployments in our ETJ. I will mention that the picture you see there with the guys on that boat, because we contract with the county for Lake Patrol and Lake Norman, we have a specialized unit that's part of our SWAT team, and we call it Maritime Operations and Tactics. So we have a full-blown maritime SWAT team that's able to respond to any and all calls for service on the lake. Because we have such a large area of water, and we also have a lot of people that live on houseboats, we just have to be prepared to deal with anything that may happen on land, on water as well. So that was a picture of some of the guys training there. Non-sensitive special police initiatives. Lake safety initiatives, vessel safety checks, we do a lot of that. Boating safety educational events, Lake Norman Safety Day. Our traffic safety initiatives include, much like you heard from CMPD, speed enforcement, seatbelt checks. We monitor the top crash locations. 2 items of evidence were collected during 2025, and we did not observe any crime trends. Okay. Struggling here. I don't know why I'm going backwards. My apologies. Okay, that sounds like a better idea. I'm trying to get us back to the...
Help is on the way.
Perfect. Technology is not my strong suit.
About time we help you a bit.
Perfect. See, I just needed her to come up here and tell me what to do. All right, so let's catch back up here. So ETJ call for service data. We have both land and lake on here. So in 2025, you can see that our officer-initiated calls were down some. That, in my opinion, is directly related to our staffing. We're low on staff as well, just like CMPD and some of the other agencies. Less cops means less officers out there doing self-initiated activities. Definitely something that we want to work on and try to get improved. 148 911 calls in 2025, 186 non-emergency calls, and then 12 other type calls. So our total calls for service dropped about 260 or so calls to 910 in 2025. The total units, the total number of officers actually increased to 1664. And the total personnel, total hours spent was 1,261 hours. Our average response time on land in 24 and 25, it actually remained the same at 6.5 minutes. We actually cut 3.5 minutes off of our lake response time in 2025, which honestly I was shocked when I saw that. But you know, that just means that we were out there more often and probably closer to the call, because it is a large lake to respond from one area to another with. Traffic stops in the ETJ, 109. Of those, 18 state citations, 43 written warnings, 48 verbal warnings. As far as vessel stops on the water, 2, no action were taken, 11 state citations, 16 written warnings, and 31 verbal warnings. We did make 2 arrests in the ETJ. Both of those were on land. Both of those were for driving while impaired. Very thankful to say that there were 0 drownings in Mecklenburg County in 2025. That is something that we really, really work hard to promote: boating safety education, wear a life jacket. You know, so many drownings are absolutely 100% preventable if someone will just wear a life jacket. You know, wear the equipment that's intended to save your life. 37 community events. Those are events that people call us and ask us to come out to an HOA or touch a truck or some type of event. And then also 26 community involvement events, and those are events where the officers self-initiate those calls. Lake Patrol top calls for service. Citizen initiated, 29 attempt to locate, 23 vessel questions, 12 vessel in distress, 10 assist vessel, and 7 trespass. Officer initiated, 60 vessel stops, 59 vessel navigation hazards, and we run into that so much because the lake level goes up and down and debris gets in the water and people's boats get loose and all kind of stuff. So we spend a lot of time doing that out there, just trying to make sure the waterway is safe. Vessel Safety Check 13, assist other law enforcement agencies 8, and assist citizens 5. Land Patrol top calls for service. So citizen initiated, 21 property damage crashes, 16 attempted locates, 16 911 hangups, 4 crashes in parking lots, and 11 alarm calls. The officer initiated calls for service, 162 crime preventions, 109 traffic stops out there in our ETJ, 36 follow-ups, 34 traffic enforcement activities, and 27 security checks. These are just some of our education and safety events, and honestly, I could probably go on for an hour because we do so much, and I'm thankful for that because, you know, so many people in the community want us to come out and talk to them about boating safety, boating education, and all that. The first one there was the Peninsula Yacht Club safety event. Great event out there every year. Another one that I'm very proud of that just started up recently was the Bailey Middle School Boating Safety Club. So we're actually able to take middle school students that may have never had the opportunity to go out on the water, take them out there, teach them about boating, teach them about safety, and really give them that exposure to the lake. Our Junior Police Academy was a big hit this year as well. Junior Lifeguard Lake Tours. We take our Citizens Academy out when we do that for the town or for the police department and do a presentation on Lake Patrol. Mecklenburg County Parks and Rec, the summer camps. We do a lot with Mecklenburg County Parks, and again, that's a great partner for us as well. The Young Explorers Nature Program and also the Calvin Newman Youth Boating Program. Just some other community events, the Valley Hope Foundation Polar Plunge, Rock the Boat at the JM Center fundraiser, and the JM is the Joshua Murray Boating Safety and Education Center that we have at Blythe Landing. It was named after one of our officers who tragically died, went off duty very young. But the county was so gracious to let us open up that waterfront hall there and name it in honor of him. And that's where we do a lot of our boating safety and education out there. So I always want to promote that as well. The Polar Freeze paddleboard race. You can see in the picture there the cardboard boat regatta. That is always a hit, and they always sink, and people always get wet, and the water is always cold, but they love it. Polar Plunge, Media Day, Boat in America. The community kickoff for the Coast Guard Auxiliary. So inside that Josh Murray Boating Safety Center, we actually have an auxiliary Coast Guard office and radio station, which is a great asset for people that are on the water. The Coast Guard Auxiliary comes in and monitors that pretty much from Memorial Day through Labor Day. And they're there if someone has an issue or problem on the lake, they're monitoring Channel 16. Just a few more community events. The Dragon Boat Festival, which is always popular up at Ramsey Creek Park every year. The Calvin Newman Foundation Public Personal Watercraft Awareness, fireworks shows, concert series at Ramsey Creek Park, the Blythe Landing Haunted Cove. We started this 2 years ago, and that has been a tremendous hit. We go out there and decorate the Boating Safety Center and decorate all of our boats, and other people bring boats and kind of decorate them as pirate ships, so to speak, and then all the kids come out there and they actually go trick-or-treating through the boats and through the Boating Safety Center. The Lake Norman Yacht Club Boat Parade, Blythe Landing, Mothers Against Drunk Driving event, and also the Christmas Boat Parade. So a lot of activities year-round for our Lake Patrol. One of the biggest components that's very important to us as far as Lake Patrol is that training. As the lead agency out there on the water for Mecklenburg County, you know, we are available to respond 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, but we also have to work very closely with our partner agencies. So we train with them. We actually did the 2026 training last week. Those agencies include the Cornelius Fire Department, the Sheriff's Offices for Catawba County, Lincoln County, Iredell County, Mecklenburg County ABC has a boat, North Carolina Wildlife, and of course, CMPD. You know, we still depend on them heavily as well. Just some of our training topics: man overboard recovery, close quarter docking and departures, tactical combat casualty care, vessel approaches, beaching, emergency towing, drowning response, and knot tying. And these are just a few of our community partners, and really we have a lot more as well, but some of them will give us a gift card for a milkshake or a chicken sandwich or something like that, so that when we go and do a vessel safety stop, if everyone on board has all of their proper safety equipment, we give them a card as a thank you for being prepared, for being safe. You know, if a kid's wearing their life jacket, we give them a gift card for a milkshake or something like that. And we try to use that to build that positive relationship, that positive interaction with those kids. So like I say, there's a lot more partners, but these are just a few of them. And that is it. And I will be happy to take any questions that y'all may have. Just bear with me because I don't have a secretary. No, I'm just kidding, an assistant.
Thanks, Chief. I know that there are some questions. We're going to keep it to the 2 minutes. I'm going to start with Commissioner Dunlap.
Yeah, Chief, I know you're not responsible for what goes on in other social media outlets, but I was just curious, and so I Googled the crime rate in Cornelius, and it's different than what you're presenting here. So I don't know how you correct stuff like that, but you might find it interesting to go look. The only other thing I'll say is that I would really love if every agency that reported to us reported from a uniform report so that you could easily see the differences, not that you're comparing one community to another community, but I'd like to see that there was 25 homicides in Charlotte, 1 in Cornelius, 1 in something more uniform that makes it easier to read when you're looking at these kind of reports. I mean, I like the different graphics and everybody's doing their own thing, but when you're kind of looking at it, it would be easier if I could see that. Just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like me to respond now or?
Please.
Well, yeah.
Okay. So
I'm coming around.
I will check into the crime rate, but my guess would be the crime rate that you're Googling and seeing online is the crime rate for the town as a whole and not just our ETJ. So our ETJ is separated out when our crime analyst is running the numbers. So that would be my best guess as to why you're seeing a different crime rate there. As far as the uniform report, I agree it would be very beneficial if we just had one template that we all just kind of filled in the blank so that, it does all look the same because everybody does sort of do their own thing. But that also makes it interesting, too, because we can all kind of, like you said, put our own spin on it and show and highlight things that were important to us that we feel like the county needs to see.
Well, thank you for reminding me that we're looking at ETJ,
Yes, sir. ETJ.
and not the town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, where possible, I'm happy to work with our law enforcement partners regarding standardizing some of the reports moving forward.
That'd be great. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you. Thank you for everything that you do and really for highlighting Lake Patrol. I am, for 8 years, have been the liaison for the Marine Commissions, and so lately I've been in very late meetings with Officer Clausen and other officers.
Right.
Our Park and Rec professionals love working with you, Greg Clemmer, Chris Hunter, Michael Campbell. Like, you are really good to work with at Ramsey Creek and Blythe Landing.
Thank you.
And highly respected as leaders on the lake for all the surrounding counties. So when we're in the Marine Commission meetings, we hear all kinds of good information about Cornelius Police Department, Lake Patrol, really, being a team with other counties and leaders, they're really looking to you as leaders. So I don't really have a question except, who is your lead Lake Patrol right now?
So my sergeant over Lake Patrol that works solely Lake Patrol day in and day out is Sergeant Joseph McClellan. We have a lieutenant assigned over that unit, and then he also has a corporal as well. But Joseph McClellan is the contact. And, of course, Ian Clausen as well, if you're dealing with him with the Lake Norman Marine Commission.
Yeah, he comes regularly, because the meetings go late. But just really thank you for all your work, because it's a life safety issue. And, people don't think about, a lot of people in Mecklenburg County don't think about the water. And so it's really important work, and you are leaders. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the kind of words. And like I say, Mecklenburg County Parks and Rec has been phenomenal to work with us. A prime example was in the last couple of years, we were having issues with rental boat companies, and they were actually targeting people to come out and rent boats who were completely unfamiliar with operating boats. And Mecklenburg County Parks and Mecklenburg County worked with us and said, you can go do it, that's fine, but you're not using our county boating ramps. And we cut that down tremendously from occurring.
Thank you for being such a great partner. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Griffin.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for Dunlap sort of did the clarification. This is ETJ and not Cornelius proper. But for everything that you're doing in partnership with others to reduce drownings, when you said 0, Charlotte's home for me, so I understand you used to play up on the lake going straight up Beatties Ford Road. Hop in. But there's been a series of drownings over the years, particularly of young kids who don't follow boat safety and life jackets, et cetera. But when I saw 0 on there, that's just like a red flashing light. I know it's ETJ, but it's all that area.
Yes.
So thank you for your safety boating training and classes that you offer to the community. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Leek.
Let me too say thank you for all that you young people give us as policemen, putting your lives on the line. Do we still have the DARE program in the school system to save those who are not ready to retire, but to give them a chance to go and work with students?
So we in the town of Cornelius do not have the DARE program in our schools, but we do have school resource officers at our elementary schools, and they teach about drug prevention, alcohol prevention, and all of that. And also our school resource officer at our middle school and high schools, they definitely promote all that as well. But we do not specifically have the DARE program in the town of Cornelius anymore.
And do we recruit through the school system, like young people who may be interested in becoming policemen? Do we have that program they used to have years ago in the school system?
Yes, ma'am. So one of the slides I mentioned, we have that junior police academy. I kind of highlighted under Lake Patrol, but we also do that for the police department as well on the land side. So we definitely have that relationship with high school age kids, and I say kids, young people. But what we run into is that they're 17 or 18, and to be a police officer in the state of Carolina, you have to be 20 and a half, 21 at a certain point in time. So there's a 2-year gap in there where we lose them. So much like the civilian crash investigator program that CMPD has started, my agency is looking to start that as well to try to capture those 18, 19, 20-year-olds who maybe want to get into law enforcement but aren't old enough to actually be sworn yet. We can go ahead and get them in, get them trained in some areas of law enforcement, and hopefully recruit them as police officers.
And my last question deals with car racing in the street now. I don't know where to call it racing, but you see the tires in the street. Are we taking those cars and selling them? Are we charging the parents for their kids taking their cars? How are we handling that? Because that's dangerous.
So I will tell you that we've been very fortunate not to have as much of an issue with that as CMPD has. But from my understanding, if any agency experiences something like that and they have the opportunity to seize that vehicle for any reason, whatever reason, as long as it's legal, then yes, they are applying to have those vehicles auctioned off, sold through the courts.
And thank you so much for putting your lives on the line.
Thank you.
Chief, just want to say thank you for the work, for the presentation. You guys are doing tremendous work, and we sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you.
I did want to, because Commissioner Leek did bring up the street racing, I do think that that's something that a lot of people are concerned about. Chief Patterson, do you mind just maybe addressing that really quickly? Make that the last comment.
Okay. Is it okay from right here?
If you could just grab one of the microphones.
Overreaction here.
That is a major concern. Thank you for bringing that up. A lot of people do ask about that.
Yes, absolutely, and I'm going to tag team with the DC on it because she has definitely more information what we're doing lately. We do have a unit that is dedicated to street takeovers and seizing those cars when we can. Just this past weekend, they had a small operation where they located some vehicles. The thing with these meetup spots, they move all the time. They're very mobile, we know that, and so sometimes it's hard pinpointing, but our team works to be able to seize those vehicles whenever we can, and you want to add to that, DC?
Yes, and so, as the chief said, so these are very sporadic, but they will start off as car meets, and so where there's not necessarily any laws being broken, what we do is we utilize our real-time crime center, and we try to rely on 911 calls for service. As we send officers to deploy to these, we try to be very strategic because we don't want people getting hurt trying to run from the police, because obviously preservation of life is priority. And so one of the things that we are working on is we're educating our third shift officers. We have a special education campaign going on. So, because most of these are younger third shift officers responding to these calls for service. And then a lot of what we do, without giving out like too much of the tools of the trade, we do a lot of investigation on the back end. And so we are able to do a lot of work with our unit that is on our street race and takeover and our intelligence unit. So that way we can go back, we can sign warrants on folks, we can seize vehicles. And then what we try to do is we try to make sure when our detectives go to court, they present as much information as possible to not allow, usually it's a parent's car, it's in the parent's name, to not allow that car to go back into the hands of the person, the kid that's driving that car.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. You have a question? Okay. I do have a question before we transition. So, Chief, I'm always really impressed by the community engagement that you guys do. Because I just think that's so important, particularly when we talk about engaging youth.
Yes.
And I really love that. There's two things. Number one, do you send that information like to Mecklenburg County team for us to share via our website as well, or is it just pretty much concentrated in the Huntersville website when you're doing that stuff?
It's primarily on the Town of Cornelius website and our social media as well. We promote it out, and then I do a quarterly report to our Board of Commissioners and my town manager that includes the highlights of all those different programs as well. But I mean, if that's something you're interested in receiving more frequently or whatever, then we can certainly include Mecklenburg County in that as well.
I would really be interested in that, only because I think, and again, I don't want to overstep, but I also know that exposure for the community, in particular our children, is really important. And to the extent that we can give parents opportunities all over the county is something that I would be interested in to see how we could do that and engage. Obviously, as district representatives, we're really, I'm at-large representatives as well, but we want to make sure that we're providing as many opportunities as possible for our youth and families, and to the extent that we can give them exposure in multiple areas, I would appreciate us exploring that.
Yes, sir. Our best avenue for us in town is through our schools, so our school resource officers. But that's where we have a great partnership with Mecklenburg County Parks and Rec, because anyone that lives in the county can go to a Parks and Rec type camp or whatever else, and then that in turn brings them to us. So while we don't have as big of an outreach per se for the town of Cornelius, we're reaching a lot more people through other avenues.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Balkin. Appreciate it. Our next presenter is Chief Vaughn from the town of Huntersville.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you again for having us. I am Brian Vaughn, the Chief of Police at Huntersville PD. I took over as Chief of Police September the 1st after Barry Graham retired with 32 years. I have been employed at the Huntersville Police Department for over 25 years, so I also know the town and been fortunate enough to be imparted with the trust of running the department. I will try to just give you 30,000-foot view on some of the initial things about the times of calls for service and response times, and then really kind of get to the cream of the crop of the crime stats, which is what I think you're most interested in, because Huntersville has the biggest land area as far as the ETJ is concerned. You can see in the map in the top left coordinate, the top left or the northwest coordinate, you see the little green spot where it says 9221. That is a small sliver of ETJ that's out near McGuire, also where CMPD takes over the ETJ out in that area. The southwest, 9223, the pink, you can see that that's out towards Neck Road and Sample Road and getting into some of that area where Commissioner Powell resides. 9224 is kind of our southeast side, leading out to Skybrook, Eastfield Road, leading out towards the Concord area, and then the northeast section, which is again kind of going out Highway 73 towards Cabarrus County, and some of the things that we cover there. We have a lot of land, but not a lot of people in this area. So calls by quarter, again, this is specifically for the ETJ, and you can see between the blue of officer-initiated calls and the red, I'll break these down in a couple of slides, but for the year, 1,580 total calls between officer-initiated and citizen-initiated calls, 1,580 in our ETJ. Compared to the city limits of Huntersville, you can see as an entire town, this is the rest of the town, so you would add the two numbers together, but for the rest of the town, we answered 15,692 calls for service from citizens, and officer-initiated was nearly 20,000 for the town. And then you see the small sliver of what the ETJ represents of that total of the numbers there to the left. Then this is breaking down by section, by beat, and within the box is specifically for ETJ, something that you would be concerned about most. And you can see like the 9221 in the bottom right box, that was that little green area of land that's in the northwest coordinate of the community that we're in. And you can see the calls across from there. And again, red represents citizen, blue represents officer. This is calls by priority. So where you'll see some of this mirroring is we contract our dispatch services with the City of Charlotte and with Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department. And so our priority levels will be reflective of similar nature to what CMPD's priority levels are that you saw during Chief Patterson's presentation. This is where some of the standardization of the report may have to deviate some, because what we have for a priority, Cornelius may not necessarily have rated as the same priority as what we have. But you can see the breakdown of these things for 2025. Again, priority one is our emergency response, which is your red, the top right-hand side there, 147 total emergency responses in 2025. And in comparison to 2024, that has a slight increase in priority response. We have seen a little bit of an uptick because there's been some satellite development that is actually town of Huntersville, where we have to go through ETJ to get to the other pieces of land and development that's happening within the town, and some of that's carrying over and having some residual effects of the annexations and things that are happening with the actual contiguous city limits. And so comparatively, we're up a little bit as far as that emergency response. Across the board, though, it's pretty level as far as our call levels, and you can see what those are related there. Top 5 citizen-initiated calls by call type. Again, this is when somebody picks up the phone and calls 911. This is our response. This is the same top 5 call responses from 2024. They don't vary much. What varies is that it actually has a decrease. So accident in roadway property damage only, we saw a slight decrease of about 10% of property damage crashes. And everything else is fairly in line. It's negligible differences between 24 and 25. But again, these are our top 5 citizen-initiated calls for service. And then going back, the top 3 officer-initiated calls for service. This is where the officers are going out and being proactive and doing what they are doing. And you can see the breakdown of this. Again, I'll just echo what Chief Patterson said and Chief Balcom said, is same staffing, that I won't beat that drum completely, but we're all experiencing the same thing. I will also echo what they're saying, is that we are certainly seeing an uptick in our recruiting and our applicants that are coming in, and echoing similar sentiments of what Chief Balcom is saying. We have started a civilian crash investigation unit that started July 1 of this year. I've hired 4. 2 of mine are retired police officers, and 2 are 19-year-olds that want to be police officers. And so this is how we capture some of those younger ages under the age of 21, that they can come in and we can start kind of teaching them the Huntersville way, and then turn those over into police positions eventually, hopefully. And so again, you see the top 3 things. So there is a decrease of about 25 to 30% in traffic stops within our ETJ. But you will see, and when I get to the actual crimes and calls for service, you'll see where it's kind of taken up some of the officers' time based on the severity or whatever it is that the officers have responded to, specifically with crashes. On our priority responses, again, the number you see at the top of each column, you start with the priority 1. That's our emergency response. You can see the breakdown there is from the time that the person placed the 911 call till the time that the officer arrived on scene. So the red at the bottom is the amount of time it took for the call to be dispatched and our officer to receive that call for service. And then the blue is the amount of time that it took the officer to get to that response. We're seeing this is about on average across the board about our response time from 2024. The emergency response time slipped 20 or 30 seconds or so from 2024. But again, if you look at the other ones, they're all within 30 to 40 seconds of each time from 2024 to what you see listed here in 25. Specifically about traffic safety, you'll hear, I think all of us probably will hit on the traffic safety pieces because we have a lot of traffic complaints that come in more of these rural areas because people can travel faster in those areas than they can in our actual city limits of Huntersville. If you've ever been to Huntersville, you know exit 25 is a parking lot most days. And so, we're addressing a lot of speeding concerns and things out in the ETJ because there's not as much development for Huntersville in these areas. And so specifically for our traffic unit, that our traffic officers, they spent 976 man hours in the ETJ in 2025. That is an actual uptick from 2024. We spent 200 more hours in the ETJ for our traffic safety section. You see that there was 475 total traffic-related calls for service that also included traffic stops. This is actually a decrease. So even though we increased the number and the time of the officers spent in the ETJ as far as traffic-related concerns were, you'll see a slight decrease in this because we actually had an uptick in like our personal injury crashes where you see that you've spent all these hours out here. Well, they've also responded to more traffic crashes with injuries, and they took more investigative time and took more resources to address those issues. So there's an uptick in the number of hours that was spent there. And then going to the bottom in 2025, there was 148 traffic crashes within the ETJ. 46 of those involved personal injury. That's compared to 36 the prior year. And again, what we're seeing is we have new neighborhoods and new communities being built in Huntersville out in these ETJ areas where people are building by right and then voluntarily annexing into the city limits when they build. And so they're traveling through ETJ to get back into Huntersville. And so we're seeing an uptick in the crashes in those areas, which is where the focus of our traffic unit is when they're going out into these ETJs. Just kind of through these in there, this was 7 of the 7 significant arrests. These are the arrests that we made in the ETJ in 2025. I'll address a couple specific at the very end of this. You have the papers in front of you that lay out what the actual charges were in those areas. You see several driving while impaired charges, and then you see, again, some of the B&Es and some of the things that relate to domestic violence, like interfering or preventing emergency communication. So some of that stuff comes to the domestic violence side of things. Again, when we see these B&Es happening, a lot of these are happening in some of these construction zones that aren't yet in the city limits, or people think they're in a rural area so they can get in and get out quickly without being detected. And so that's where you see some of this property crime coming from. The meat and potatoes of this, which I think you would be most concerned about, is the actual crimes out in the ETJ. You'll see the 5 years here. The last 2 years we're level as far as the reporting and crime goes. You'll see that we had a couple more assaults compared to the year before, but then you'll see a decrease in another one, like a motor vehicle theft has gone down or theft from a building has gone down. And so just overall, you see the list. I won't go through there and read every one of for the sake of time, read every one of these individual crimes. If you have questions about them, you can ask those when we're finished here. And then The next slide is just specifically by quarter. And then what we'll see is, for instance, motor vehicle theft. We'll see an uptick of those across the town and ETJ, especially during the summer months, going back to some of the youth crime issues that we talk about. They're out of school, they have nothing to do, and they come and try to commit the crimes under the cover of darkness and in areas that it's rural. And so we'll see an uptick of those things during the summer months. You see Q2 and Q3 are the 2 quarters that impact our numbers the most. Finally, the last 2 things that I really want to give some kudos to my staff. The first one listed there has a second-degree murder charge. So frequently when we have a severe traffic crash, and this one was in the ETJ out towards the Cabarrus County line, the person crossed the center line and hit another vehicle and killed the people in the other car. And so through my traffic unit's investigation, they were able to establish that he was impaired and that we were able to charge this person through the cooperation of the DA's office and actually charge this person with second-degree murder, which it was good because the investigation revealed enough that the person ended up coming in and pleading the case and it didn't go to trial. It just shows the effort that my traffic unit put into this specific investigation. And then the second one here, the armed robbery listed, this occurred at the cemetery on Beatty's Ford out near Sample Road, down near Mount Holly Huntersville Road. Three suspects robbed the victim of several firearms. As I look back at this, it looks like it probably was a deal of some sort that went sideways and they were using the cemetery as a meetup point. The important piece of this, though, is that we were able to, through the work with our federal partners, capture the 3 suspects, identify them through our investigators. We located several of the stolen firearms that came back, that we were able to get back, and charge those folks out of that. And that is all I have.
All right, Chief, thank you for that. I know we may have some questions or comments, colleagues. Let me start with Commissioner Leek.
As it relates to female versus male, who are the greatest number of individuals you have arrested, males or females, with drinking and driving, or?
It's usually, we see a lot of males. I mean, I think it just because of the ratio of the demographics as well, but males tend to be more risky. And so they're willing to take on those risks by doing that, but we do see that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Powell?
I don't have any questions, just gratitude. Thank you for all that you do. From managing the school traffic of many schools and all of the things that you do. And I'll give you the opportunity, if there's anything that you would like us to know, please, in addition to this, please tell us now.
Yeah, the one thing I want to say is, and I hate Chief Patterson left, she's minimizing one of the relationships with the U.S. Attorney, Russ Ferguson. She and the U.S. Attorney arranged a violent crime summit a couple weeks ago, and all the leaders from the agencies in Mecklenburg County were present at this, including all the 3-letter agencies. Were all present for this so we could all get in the same room and discuss some of the crime trends and things that we're seeing. And so I think what you're seeing over the last, again, I've worked in this county for over 25 years. I would say in the last 4 or 5 years, because we're all in the same boat, you're seeing more collaboration and more cooperative effort between agencies, not just us at the north end and Charlotte, but then also the collaboration with our south end partners who, for us, it might as well be in another country when you look at Pineville and Matthews and Mint Hill. But because we all are seeing the same trends in hiring and crimes and juveniles and all of the things, you're seeing a lot more collaboration. So if there's a silver lining to this, more of that has come out of the last 5 or 6 years than ever in the past. The second piece, I want to toot Huntersville's horn while I have the opportunity to do it. When I took over for Huntersville in September, we had about a 22-23% opening rate. And we've only had one person resign since I took over to leave for a federal agency. We've seen a big decrease in that. Our hiring rate has increased, so we're actually below 20%. And Huntersville PD is having its first, we're doing our own police academy this summer that I have 10 folks signed up for already to get my numbers down into my openings down into the single digits, which has not been that way in 4 or 5 years. And so we're just working through some of those things, no different than Charlotte, no different than Cornelius. You know, everybody's fighting for the same good candidates. There's plenty of jobs, there's just not enough good candidates.
What are you doing, though? What are you offering over there?
You know, it's the same thing. We're all doing the same thing. You know, we're offering recruiting incentives to our current staff. You know, it's constantly going and getting the support from the board. Everybody's got great boards right now that are highly supportive of the police and have been responsive to our needs for increase in pay. And you know, we're just recognizing it's a new generation of officers that are coming in that have a different level of we have to have a different level of management style with the new recruits coming in. And so I think you're just kind of seeing a transition in the career that we're all learning from because we've been in it for so long. We're having to adapt to the current times. Yes, ma'am.
Well, Chief, thank you so much. Congratulations on that. That's a great piece of information for us to know. So congratulations on the work. And
appreciate that.
Thank you, Chief Vaughn.
Gratitude.
The next and final presenter for this topic is Chief Huggins from the town of Pineville.
That's a really good point.
And I think on this one, do we have the presentation, Ree? Oh, we do, okay.
You don't have the print.
We don't have, thank you, that's right. So colleagues, we don't have this presentation in the packet.
Press it to go forward.
Yeah.
If you want to. You don't have to.
That's on the very first one. How do you get to the next one? Okay, I got it. County Commissioners, County Manager, good afternoon. My name is Mike Hudgens. I have the honor to be the Chief of Police in Pineville. Our ETJ is only 1.03 square miles. It has about a population a little over 4,000. It's majority residential, and the crime trends reflect that when we go over these a little bit later. We acquired the ETJ back in June 30th of 2023. The way I lead the department, the direction department, I have a community engaged strategic management plan. Our strategic management plan was made with myself, my staff, and also with I have a Chiefs Advisory Board made up of citizens. Our S&P serves as a process to determine critical long-term goals of the department and short-term actions that furthers the department's mission. We have 5 goals. We use evidence-based crime fighting techniques that are data-driven. We also have community engagement and protection as another goal. Transparency and accountability is another goal. And our 4th goal is officer performance, safety, and wellness. And our last one is technology and support. So one of our, this one here covers 2 of our goals from our strategic management plan. One thing that's not up here, we do have police academies for youth and also police academies for adults. I have my community team. I have a 2-person community team. We are a small department that have contacts. They liaison with all our hotels and all of our apartment complexes, but they also liaison with all of our HOAs. We do community walkabouts. This is a picture of one of our walkabouts in the ETJ. I want to say this is, no, I'm going to lie. I was going to say it's Glenfinnan. I also do Chiefs Facebook Live. I want to be transparent, so I take questions and stuff when I do the Chiefs Facebook Live. It stays up on Facebook for 30 days if people want to watch it. That's where we get most of our views. We do events with Harrison United Methodist Church, which is at Providence Road West. They are also a member of our homeless task force. The police department leads a homeless task force in the town of Pineville. They're just one of the many members. We also have membership from the county with Karen Pelletier. She's on our board, on our homeless outreach team too.
I have a chief, like I mentioned earlier, I have a Chiefs Advisory Board. I have 2 individuals, they're married, Mr. and Mrs. Silva, that live in the ETJ. They serve on my advisory board. One thing I want to bring up about the advisory board is that based on recent situations and stuff, discussing with the advisory board, we wanted to do something to build trust with our international community. So we took the lead with the Silvas. We partnered with the town and Parks and Recs in particular, and we're going to host a we call it a World Festival to bring in our international community. That'll be on May 30th at Lake Park in Pineville. I also, Hope Soccer Ministries plays in Pineville. The executive director of Hope Soccer Ministries lives in the ETJ. So I coach a U10 team in there, and it's made up of a very diverse group of folks, parents, kids and stuff, and a lot of them live in the ETJ and stuff. And I just want to say we won 4 championships in a row. I challenged the other Chiefs to win 4 in a row in soccer. But anyway, it's been a blast. It's a great opportunity to have relationships with people outside of a call for service, you know, in a really peaceful, nurturing environment for both of us, not just them, but for me too. So I'll go over some of the calls of service in the ETJ. We had 437 total calls of service last year. The average call duration is 43 minutes. Our response time is 10 minutes, so 10 minutes, 56 seconds. Pineville's a little bit different than other towns. We have our own, well, no, not Cornelius. Cornelius has our own dispatch too. Pineville has its own 911 center. We dispatch for Pineville and Mint Hill. We do not do levels of priorities for our calls because we are small. We have 29,000 calls a year and then Mint Hill has about 29,000. So we lump all our calls into one bucket. So 11-minute or 10-minute 56 response time, when you have all priorities, is pretty doggone good. So our total hours is 340 hours. Typical for residential areas, domestics are one of the highest calls for service type. Meet the complainant, that's a hodgepodge of.
And so I really enjoyed your presentation too. Like the fact that you have an advisory council for this, you know, tiny little part of ETJ is impressive. Like I just love everything about it. And I kept thinking about when I first moved here in 1986, I lived in Pineville, and there was no Carolina Place Mall, there was no hospital yet, we were building Mercy South, and it was just fields of daisies, and I used to ride my bike down Pineville Matthews Road, and now I'm thinking like it's a whole different animal 40 years later, but just thank you for the work you do, and I think you get a lot of support. I think they're very supportive for sure, but the fact that you're such a great community policing person, I think that helps a lot. So thank you for the work you do.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Thank you. Commissioner Leek.
Let me first say thank you for your presentation. I want to ask you about a young lady named Angela Reed that does the Christmas givings during the Christmas holidays, who lives in Pineville, right there at the water. You know where the water is there in the city, right?
Are you talking about the lake park or?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I call it the water area.
Yes, ma'am.
She lives there, and she does all this giving during the Christmas holidays and supporting those in the community. And Pastor Claude Alexander had a church in Pineville to the left side on 51. I'm not sure if he's still open or not, but I used to attend that church sometimes.
I think Bishop Camps is over there, and he's on my chief advisory board too.
Who is that?
Bishop Camps.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yes, ma'am.
And my last one is the restaurant that you have there on the highway.
The dive-in, or which one?
Name 2.
Oh my goodness. What is wrong with my brain? I'll think of it once I leave from here. I'll think of both of them. It's on Main Street. There's 2 of them that just came here, and the owner's Kevin Devaney, and I can't think of the name of his restaurants now, but I go there often. Yes, he owns 2 restaurants right next to each other on Main Street. Yes, always full. The downtown's very quaint.
But thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Chief, I just want to end with, obviously, a thank you. We certainly appreciate your approach. But I do want to say one thing, that it wasn't lost on me that some of the charges that were, one of the charges that was shown was possession of WMD for that family. And I just want to illustrate that the jobs that you do, that you all do, regardless of the size of the jurisdiction, come with a lot of danger. And just because of the size doesn't reduce the danger that you guys put in your lives on the line every day. You just don't know what you're going to encounter. And, you know, that was a huge eye-opener for me, just, you know, seeing those charges. And I just want the community to be mindful of that. And so when we think about it from a Mecklenburg County perspective, we care as a board just as much about our towns as we do the city, and vice versa. So thank you again for what you do, and thank you to all of the presenters and all of our law enforcement professionals. We appreciate you, stand with you, and want to support you any way that we can.
Yes, sir. And we definitely feel it, so we appreciate it. Y'all have a great, I guess I'm done, right?
You're done.
Thank you, Chief.
That was great.
Just has one policeman on his force?
Mr. Chair, the second and final item on your agenda is an update on the LaSalle Street building facility. Zach Lewis, Senior Assistant to the County Manager, is going to provide that update. Please recognize Zach.
All right, and while Zach is coming, colleagues, I just want to remind us that this is just an update. We've asked questions, we've gone through, so literally it's an update. Obviously, if you have something burning, you know, I'll recognize you, but I just want to level set with that.
All right. Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm not a chief of police, but instead I'm Zach Lewis, as the manager mentioned, senior assistant to the county manager, to wrap us up today. So the presentation that I am going to share today is the third presentation that I have presented to the board regarding turning the facility located at 2324 LaSalle Street, which we refer to as the LaSalle Building, into a community center. So my presentation today is really going to be in three parts. A brief recap of the prior two meetings, the prior two public policy meetings where this has been presented on, completed activities since the prior presentation, as well as ongoing activities and next steps to anticipate. But again, just to reiterate that purpose, it is ultimately just to update you all on the process as it is ongoing. So now, just to briefly refresh everybody on prior meetings. So again, as I have shared in the past, what you see in this aerial image is of the LaSalle building. And so during Commissioner Ride the Districts, multiple commissioners had inquired about the possibility of turning this facility into a community center, particularly towards youth and families, serving those families that are in this area. To quickly highlight again some of the building characteristics. So this facility has bounced between the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Library, City of Charlotte, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools between 1956 and 2024, so it has a rich history. And the library donated this property to Mecklenburg County in November of 2024 due to having no usage needs for it. Currently, this building is housing services for the Catherine Simmons Avenue until the end of the fiscal year. And lastly, there are several CMS schools that are in the immediate surrounding areas that are neighboring the Lincoln Heights neighborhood. There is a CATS bus stop that is directly in front of this facility that you can see in the image on the left. And there is there's a shopping mall, a food line, if you will, with a large parking lot to the right of it. So in the September 2025 Budget Public Policy Workshop meeting, the presentation then was really dedicated towards learning about the many different frameworks that community centers are built upon, as well as reviewing an initial high-level proposed scope of work for this facility. Some of the models that we reviewed on the left here were the crisis intervention, comprehensive support, creative and artistic expression, recreation and safe haven services for seniors. And the two in green at the bottom were the ones that the recommendation consisted of, such as skills and career development and youth leadership and civic engagement. And so from that initial scope of work, the buckets that you see on the right side were potential program areas that fell within those two models that you see in the green. And so from that, the board at the time had requested that we take this initial recommendation and pressure test it with community leaders. So we shared it with you all, but now let's actually take it into the community and meet with folks. So the October 14th public policy meeting, the next month, was then dedicated to providing an update on that community feedback, as well as presenting a refined scope of work directly based on that community feedback. 6 community organizations were met with individually, and this initial high-level scope of work buckets, the 4 buckets that we had just looked at, were shared with each group for their feedback. The biggest takeaway from this report out was that the community organizations individually unanimously agreed with the proposal, but they also offered some refinements to it as well. And what you see on the screen here were the areas of refinement that were suggested to that scope of work, that there was a significant need for academic and skills assistance. Inside, assessing the feasibility of set services, and on the outside, pop-up services based on a community's needs, that law enforcement needed to be involved in some capacity, determining if quarterly community resource fairs were possible on the facility grounds, and that there needed to be some connection to mental health supports. With those refinements, this feedback led to a more pointed scope of work that was presented, which provided more explicit direction on which areas of upwards economic mobility to focus on for this facility, which encompassed identifying a lead nonprofit operator to provide dedicated services around these 3 pillars. Pillar 1 on the left, accelerated academic pathways. Pillar 2 on the right, technical skills and recreation. And pillar 3 at the bottom, coming directly from that feedback, is comprehensive needs, which is identifying routine outdoor pop-up services based on what the community needs, such as food boxes, clothing closets, mobile health clinics, what have you. Importantly as well, I won't read all of this, but in that October meeting, we reviewed governance structure. And the governance structure that we reviewed identified 3 roles: the lead entity, which is Mecklenburg County, who ultimately provides the facility and approves of activities within the building; the lead operator, which would be the nonprofit housed in this building; as well as an advisory board, which would consist of neighborhood residents and stakeholders in the community that ultimately oversaw the direction of programming as it occurred within this building. And then lastly, in that October meeting, we had reviewed a very preliminary timeline that addressed various high-level important activities that needed to happen to make this community center come online, which spanned over 10 months. And there is a refined timeline that we will look at the end of this presentation as well, too. But now that leads into the new stuff. So at the end of that October meeting, the board indicated its support for this refined scope, as well as the next steps to begin actually receiving solicitations from nonprofit partners. And that is what we are going to look at now. So the formal scope of work that was issued to the public for this opportunity was released on December 11th, and it ran for 45 days until the end of January. This scope of work, which was based on those 3 pillars that we had just reviewed, also included language that acknowledged that submissions are not necessarily strictly limited to those 3 pillars, as if you have other creative models that address upwards economic mobility, please apply and please submit. That way it wasn't too confined and any folks could submit opportunities. And that snippet you see on the bottom right is that language from the scope of work. Now, In the application, there were several required components that applicants had to complete. And of those, there was a series of yes/no questions that essentially served as a litmus test to help review these applications and really to level set among expectations across the various applicants. And so you see those on the screen here. Do you understand this opportunity is primarily for a lease agreement and additional funding may be considered if available? Would your service model be sustainable if no county funding were provided relying solely on this lease agreement for the building? Does your organization understand this facility is to provide services to Mecklenburg County residents, specifically in the area that it is located? Does your organization have experience developing strategic partnerships with additional organizations to offer identified services? Does your organization currently have partnerships with service providers to offer pop-up services in this site? Does your organization have experience identifying and managing a community council to help steer the direction of services offered? Does your organization have experience delivering services in an urban area of high need? And then lastly, does your organization have a formal policy or staff that are trained in trauma-informed care? And with each of these questions, supporting documentation was also requested, and this included things such as existing nonprofit budgets, proposed budgets if you were saying that it would not be sustainable without funding, program overviews, metrics, data, really anything to help put more merit and weight behind each application. Now, because the primary audience for this opportunity was nonprofit organizations, it was very critical that this opportunity for them to apply was effectively communicated through proper channels to ensure both equal opportunity of applying as there was a formal process, but also that way interested applicants knew that assistance was available if they needed help in applying and how to actually access that assistance. And this latter point, I just want to mention for a second, is very important because when we're interacting with nonprofits, this could be the first time that an organization has tried or has applied to an opportunity such as this to partner with a government entity. So really wanted to make sure that folks knew that help and assistance was out there if this was your first time and how to find it and how to access the proper process for applying. But what you see on the screen here on the left is a web story that was posted on the county's website. And what you see on the bottom here is one of several news articles that were written about this opportunity to help communicate it out to the public. And credit to Suzette and Public Information over there because they played a major role in helping publish this across web stories, news releases, board bulletins, and several economic development channels across community organization and nonprofit networks. But I want to speak about Facebook for a second. So Facebook, interestingly, which was one of the social media folks' ideas here, turned out to be an absolute incredible decision to be made. And I just wanted to share some of the data and metrics around this really quick. So sharing this opportunity on Facebook, which is the picture that you see here, was essentially an opportunity for mass community feedback on this proposal, as anybody and everybody could see it, read it, and comment on it. But engagement on this Facebook post was absolutely incredible. And so some of the metrics on this left box that you see here is it had over 2,000 link clicks. It had an over 70% engagement rate. And what I learned engagement rate is that is somebody who views the post, that they interact with it in some capacity. They like it, they share it, they comment on it, they do something rather than just scroll past. 70%. And to benchmark that, government social media averages around 3% engagement rate. So from 3% to 70%. Over 1,600 likes, 770 shares, and that community feedback part here, over 500 comments. So taking a look at those comments, it was overwhelmingly positive. It was overwhelmingly positive response to the proposal, and it was very interesting because a lot of the comments were in one of two buckets. One, folks were reminiscing on prior uses of the building when it was a library, remembering, oh, I used to go there when it was a library, but also agreeing that the proposal that was being brought forward is something absolutely needed in this area as well, too. So if able, I encourage you to scroll back to go take a look at some of those comments if you can. But Public Information also informed me that this was the third, I believe, highest engaged Facebook post of 2025, and they have submitted it for an award as well, too. But now to actually talk about the applications. So once the application window closed, 22 applications from a variety of nonprofit organizations were received. And these were from both within the Charlotte metro region, outside of our general region, and even from another state. And to help illustrate the type of nonprofits that applied, for illustrative purposes here, we have bucketed them into 3 different buckets based on organizational makeup, if you will. So 11 grassroots organizations, 6 mid-sized organizations, and then 5 large, more institutional nonprofits had applied as well too. And the characteristics you see on here are best practices to help, provide an organizational, makeup of the sizes. One thing I do want to mention as well too, that it's important to note that while you see 22 applications were received at the top, this number signifies the lead applicant, so the nonprofit partner that submitted the application. Many of the proposals that were reviewed had multiple partners involved, so the lead partnered with 1 person or 2 organizations or 3. So in actuality, there were over 50 nonprofit organizations that were involved in these applications in some capacity. So onto scoring those applicants. A very rigorous and critical process was created to objectively evaluate each application across a variety of criteria to begin now narrowing the pool based on or exceeding that scope of work. A scoring committee was established that consisted of 4 county program leaders who individually scored each application based on 5 defined criteria that you see on the left side here, such as urban setting experience, mission and program model, facility operational capacity, hub and partnership strategy, as well as financial sustainability. And those were scored on a 1 through 5 rating, which there were several guiding questions to help get to those, several guiding questions to help assess the components of the application. Now, once all of the reviewers independently scored all 22 applications, the evaluator scores were averaged across all 4 individual reviewers, and then very in-depth discussions were had to determine an initial short list. And this short list would then be invited to attend in-person interviews, which that brings us to the current and ongoing step of this process, which is holding these in-person interviews and issuing follow-up questions for the high-scoring applicants after this initial scoring. And so this is happening through a very thorough and critical approach because it's very important to determine the best fit for this building. The team is ensuring that there is equal consideration across all sizes of organizations as well, such as the grassroots, mid-sized, and large organizations that we had looked at before, because best fit is not necessarily defined as by the size of an organization. This in-person interview team consists of 8 leaders from across Mecklenburg County and includes the county manager as well. And in these interviews, applicants present their proposal and then are asked a series of 5 operational and strategic questions. And these questions are designed to really get into the day-to-day vision and strategy of the applicant. And these questions are categorized around what you see on the screen: sustainability, program recruitment and experience, neighborhood governance, partner continuity, as well as physical building maintenance. So we looked at the initial timeline earlier from the original from the October public policy meeting, and this refined timeline that is here is following the same 10 months. There has been some points within that have been refined or have been streamlined, what have you, but we're still following and are still at the within that same timeline. And I have signified where we are in that, which is at that short list interviews and selection piece here across March and April. And so my last slide that I will share brings us to our next steps. So once a nonprofit is selected, First, if the chosen nonprofit did request operational funding support and the manager approves this, then it will be seen within the manager's recommended budget. And then working with the selected nonprofit to actually begin putting together the service agreement, which importantly would include components such as measurable outcomes and reporting requirements. And so, Chair Jarrell, that concludes my presentation, and I am happy to entertain questions if there are any.
Zach, thanks for the update on that. Want to see, is there anything burning? Commissioner Griffin? Commissioner Griffin?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the questions I'd have, Mr. Manager, is that same facility housed Project Lift. They had $60 million over a period of time to do a number of comprehensive things with families and stuff. And that didn't work too well. So what I would hope, because our chair consistently reads our priorities at every meeting, economic development, education, environmental stewardship, et cetera, et cetera. I wish we could put a framework around a half mile, a mile, or 2 miles and determine what some of these things look like. I met with a couple of neighborhood organizations, and they'd done some research, and they were telling me education sucks, that this is bad. And I said, what's your data? Okay? So I would hope that through census, I mean, a number of ways of getting information from the schools and the neighborhoods, et cetera. I can't think, Explorer is out of date. And so that's not going to be very useful. But if we could put a framework, a mile or 2 miles or 3 miles around that facility, or however, whatever your area of operation is, and then go through these sequence of education, of economic development, of employed, or what household incomes, those things are available. Most of them are. And from that framework, as you develop your agreement or whatever it is, then have some targets other than just output targets. Because generally you're going to get output targets because everybody says that's a bad area, you got this, you got this, you got this. The question is frame it, and then in your agreement, what are you able to do, forecast. First year startup, second year I'm able to do this, third year I'm targeting this. And we certainly understand poverty is dynamic, it changes, so be reasonable, but at least have a framework that we want to improve the quality of life for whatever that geography is as we go down that road, as opposed to just hiring somebody to say, hey, I'm going to help these poor people in this corridor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Townsend Ingram.
Just want to say thank you for the report, and this has been a really good day. We've got some really good information. And the information that you shared about the communication, that is what I want for everything that we do. I just want to know our engagement. I want to know our engagement level. How long was that post up? Like, what was the time frame?
On the Facebook page?
On the Facebook page where you collected that?
It's still up today.
But I mean, what was like the average time span? What was the age of the people who actually engage? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that we can draw inferences from that and then apply it to other things, because that is fantastic. I want it for other things. I want that information for how do we get information like that out to, because if we tell people, then I think, because we have this area and we're working really hard to revitalize it, and perception is reality for most people, and they don't care about number and data and stuff like that. But that it's more tangible, it's real. They can see that, they can feel that. Hey, did you know that county is doing this and we got this many hits? But knowing how many hits, how we reach people is imperative. And I need it, I want it. And I thank you for that so much.
Let me go to Commissioner Leek.
Let me first say thank you for your research, the time you've spent, the energy that you've spent. And I go to Kathy Simmons' neighborhood once a week and sometimes 5 times a week. I was over there yesterday. So with what Mr. School Board Chairman said equates to quality for me. I've met with 10 groups of individuals who want to legally get this place, but what you gonna do with it? We'll decide later. And it's the same group of people who wanna always talk about bringing some sandwiches. You go over there, when I was there yesterday, trash was everywhere in the yard at that facility. The bus stop was full of trash yesterday, and that was Monday. I went Sunday after church. It has almost become an obsession with me to see that facility and to look for some change. I almost hit a woman who was a senior, and she was high on drugs. Fell in the street. Had I not been paying attention, I probably would have hit her. So we've got to make sure that we just don't take our friends or who we perceive to be our friends and we're going to help them financially to make it happen. We've got to take some time, do some research, and let people prove that they can do it. It's the same people with a basket of sandwiches and something to eat, some socks, and those kinds of things. We got to do a better job. And it's the same quality, and that's bad. So I'm willing to wait and let the process be done as Mr. Griffin has recommended, because it's a part of my heart, because of the people I see over there. I didn't go one time on a Saturday for a fish fry. I go all the time because they're my people. I love them. But life has to change for that facility. You got a West Charlotte Recreation Center. You got a West Charlotte School. You got School of Performing Arts. Right up the street on Beatty'sfoot Road. Anything that you need to make it successful is at hand. But there has to be some planning, and they have to have some money, and the county cannot afford to keep it up. Every 6 months, you come asking for money. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. We usually don't take this, JG. We usually don't do audience questions like that, but hold on one second. Give me just a second.
I'm with you, Arthur.
Was there any other commissioners? So JG, I'll give you, I will give you an opportunity to speak. Is it a statement or is it a question, sir?
It's in regards to the LaSalle Street.
Okay, I'm gonna give you an opportunity, but it has to be relatively quick if you can get to it.
Thank you, and I appreciate that.
No problem. Will you stand up and take a microphone for us, please? And thank you for being here as well.
This one right here, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I appreciate that. I am one of the people, your people. I grew up a block. My name is J.G. Lockhart, James Giovanni Lockhart, native Charlottean, born and raised. I grew up down the street from the LaSalle Street building, as you call it. This used to be the public library. This used to be Batesboro Library. This was the place that kept me from actually completely going to the other side. This place is 70, this building is 70 years old. There's not a whole lot you can do with it. But one thing you can do is you can put somebody in there that can answer questions. I had no idea that this facility was up for a nonprofit when I contacted you about another facility, the Greenville Neighborhood Center. And had I known about this when I contacted you, I probably would have put a little bit more effort in trying to get my nonprofit in there. This neighborhood needs it. West Charlotte Center hasn't had any money put to it in years. This facility hasn't had any money put to it in years. There might have been programming, but nothing has gone into the facility. The best use for it could be is just like a self-help center. Stop here and ask me how. That's the only thing it's good for, unless you're going to put any money into the facility. But you're right. This area of Charlotte is one of those corridors of opportunities. This is an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and thank you for being here. And the reason why I did allow that, even though we don't typically do it, but it is great for this board to have community to show up. And so I certainly wanted to make that exception, and we appreciate hearing from you in this setting. With
I
that,
taught his sister. I had to tell you that.
you taught everybody.
That you got it.
So
I was a good teacher.
you're
and
a
I
great,
wasn't a bad teacher.
great teacher, great teacher. So with that, Zach, thank you. I believe we got some feedback, and we even got more community feedback. So I think.
Thank you, Zach. Good job as always. Mr. Chair, that concludes the items I had on your agenda for today.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. Appreciate that. And I do want to just say, Mr. Manager, this really was in response to something that the board wanted to make sure that the community had access to, right? It was a building that was just sitting. The community was reaching out, saying, hey, what's going on with it? And the county responded. And under your leadership, staff is responding and making and moving forward, and we'll see what the final product is. But I do want to recognize and say that commissioners were responsive and staff was responsive. To that end, let's move to commissioner reports. Who has a report this afternoon? Let's go with Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you. I will be quick. I just want to say thank you to the staff, Lizette Nimmons in particular, about our 2 hour and 20-minute joint session today. But I say that because I think most people stayed for the entire thing. And I think people learned, and I think the press learned about what we are looking for and what we need in this county and in the city and with the schools. And so I just really appreciate everybody coming and supporting, and thank you, staff, for allowing this to happen. And I think the only person in this room on a panel is Adrian. You did a great job. You really made us proud. So thank you.
Yes, Adrian, you did do a great job. Other commissioners? Griff, do you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I mean, we get this report every morning from the jail population, 1,963, and almost 75% of the folk are black. That's my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Leek.
Let me first say thank you for today, but we have met with the school board and this people from Raleigh before. Today was not the first time. But I hope we took some wonderful pictures that we can have a Hall of Fame. Down the hall, I've been asking for the last 10 years to please put up the pictures of our chairpersons and members of the county commissioners. In 1964, when we moved to Charlotte, it was all white. White 5 men belonged to the same church, lived in the same community, made the same decisions that impact not my neighborhood, not your neighborhood, but their neighborhood. So there's been a change, and with the influx of people and the kind of leadership we have today that was introduced to us, the superintendent of the school system was a strong, beautiful black woman. Manager of the city, a short, educated young man, Mr. Jones. And when I looked up, and I had to keep going up and going back, looking at my manager, I said, thank you, Jesus, for giving us the kind of gentleman who has a background and came from nothing to become something. A woman came to me today weeping, had worked in this building over the years, and she wanted to see you before she left, son, but she had to get home. She's trying to get a home repaired. So I say to us, I'm just as proud as a turkey today. I feel like clucking all day and all night because I am happy because things have changed, and I believe for the better for all of our people here in this community. So staff, proud of you. My chairperson, I'm still going back. I'm still looking up. God bless you for having a family and being the kind of man and gentleman in this community without a record that can represent us well. We together is what you said today. Am I right? Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Manager, for affording me to do this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Real quick, I want to double down on something that Commissioner Myers said, because IGR is very close to my heart. And I was just ecstatic today. I really was, and I want to say thank you for your leadership and how you have moved the committee, certainly to Lisette and Derek, manager, the entire staff. Just amazing show. And the last thing I would say is this, is that it was amazing to see 9 commissioners present in that meeting this morning. And it's really indicative of most of the time when we do go places, there are quite a few of us that are almost every place. And again, we can't show up everywhere,
Because you know about it.
but it is indicative of what happens when we're out. And I just want to say to you all as colleagues, you know, thank you for your service. Thank you for the way that you serve and the way that you continue to show up for the residents of Mecklenburg County. It definitely does not go unnoticed. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. It's been moved, seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.